Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Things Policy, a daily podcast from Takshashila Institution. Today, we are going to discuss about a unique and interesting topic, that is India's role in UN peacekeeping mission. Before I handed it over to our guest, who has vast experience on this field, I'll keep that surprise for a while. But I would like to introduce the subject a bit. UN peacekeeping is a collective effort led by UN to help countries to navigate the difficult path from conflicts to peace. Ideally, UN deploys international forces to areas of conflict, aiming to maintain peace and security, and at large to support rebuilding the war torn areas and societies. Historically, UN peacekeeping reflects in evolution as a key tool for maintaining international peace and security. Established in 1945, the UN peacekeeping efforts began in response to global conflicts that required neutral intervention to facilitate peace and stability. So wherever there is a neutral player to bring up peace and to maintain stability in societies, UN deploy their forces. When it comes to India, who is a key contributor to the UN peacekeeping mission since its beginning, I would like to highlight India's role in UN peacekeeping mission and India's commitment to global peace and security. India contributes, largest troop among few other countries. India has a long history of involvement in peacekeeping, starting its deployment in Korea in 1950s. Over the years, Indian peacekeepers have served in some of the world's most challenging conflict zones, offering critical support in stabilizing volatile regions. In the present context, too, with conflicts becoming increasingly complex and technology reshaping operational strategies, India's contribution continues to evolve. So, here in this podcast, we will explore India's legacy, its current engagements, and the unique challenges and innovations shaping its role in UN peacekeeping. With me, I have, as I said, I am having a very interesting, experienced, and a knowledgeable person on this topic, Colonel KK Sharma, a retired veteran from Indian Army. He is also a professor and dean global education program in Chitkara University. He is responsible to mentor and administer UG courses in academic collaborations with the University of Windsor and Trent University in Canada. Before that, he was a dean Chitkara Business School for 6 years, and he has vast experience in management related education. And more importantly, he was a founding member of USI cell on UN peacekeeping. He was a military observer in UNTAC Cambodia in 1992 and 1993. He was an active member in planning and writing on UN capstone doctrine on peacekeeping and manuals for trainers in the Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights in Geneva. Also, having very strong academic qualifications in management. He has received his PhD in management from Zurich and MBA and MSc from top institutions related to human rights. So it's our indeed pleasure to have such a great personality having vast experience on this field in our podcast. I welcome you, sir, and we are keen to interact with you on few things where most of us are not aware in otherwise through open domain. So once again, I welcome you to our daily podcast, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nitya. Thank you.
Now, Professor, I would like to ask a few questions. To begin with, can you briefly explain India's history of involvement in US peacekeeping missions?
Yeah, I think that is very interesting part of it. India, as you know, was one of the 15 nations who signed the UN Declaration the UN Charter way back in 1945-46. And India committed to upholding the Charter values in all its aspects. In fact, our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, had said that it goes with the size and prestige of the nation that we must remain engaged with the UN for all its endeavors, whether it's development, peacekeeping, economic affairs, whatever. It was actually in 1950 that the Korea problem came up because of the Cold War, and one part was aligned to Soviet Union, erstwhile Soviet Union, other to the Western powers. And actually, it is not the peacekeeping part. It is our diplomatic corps. KPS Menon was heading the commission, which of course could not satisfy both the sides. And another personality I can't forget is KM Panikkar, who was our ambassador to in Beijing. And remember, at that point in time, China did not have a membership of the UN, and all entire talk between the US and China went through KM Panikkar, because it used to come to Delhi, from Delhi to KM Panikkar, and KM Panikkar used to talk to Chou Enlai and Mao Zedong. That is a part of the history which we don't explore much. There's a lot of research can be done there. But coming to Korea War, this is where we actually participated in a multinational force, not a UN peacekeeping per se. It is a multinational force, and we sent our 50 independent para field ambulance there. And they did commendable job. In fact, they were split in two parts. One was holding or manning a hospital in Taegu, and the other one was moving around with the Commonwealth Brigade. But after the war, uh, when the ceasefire was declared, then there was a UN Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission. This is where first time India sent a massive force. We sent a brigade and 190 brigade, if I remember, under General SPP Thorat, and Lieutenant General KS Timaya. He was the chairman of the NNRC, and their job as a UN mission was to repatriate the prisoners of war which were held by both sides. And they did a commendable job. In fact, they got a lot of appreciation from Eisenhower and a lot of world leaders and all. So that is where our participation in the UN peace operation or peacekeeping operation started. And thereafter, as they say, it is a history. We went to, we actually sent our delegates to three commissions in Indochina Supervisory Commission in 1954, which continued till almost 67. Then the big challenge came in the Suez Canal takeover by other forces, and then this is where the Security Council was deadlocked. Something like it's happening in terms of Gaza and Ukraine, no. But then UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, who is supposed to be the actually main architect of UN peacekeeping, he came out with a very noble idea of united for peace in UN General Assembly. And when UN General Assembly passes this resolution, it has to be carried forward, and that's how United Nations Emergency Force, the first one, was deployed, and India kept on sending one battalion to this force from 1956 to 67. And in fact, in 67, when Arab-Israeli war started, our one Sikh light infantry, which was there, they got stuck in that war, and we lost a couple of guys there, a couple of boys, and General Riquier was the force commander. And then another major test which came was the Congo ONUC operation, which was the first Congo operation in 1960 to 63. That is where actually the Prime Minister and the Indian government said, okay, we will send a full brigade. So, and then we know that Salaria, he died there fighting the Katangan rebels, and he was awarded Paramveer Chakra. And we had people like General Diwan Premchand and all these guys. They really did a wonderful job. So it continued from there. And then, of course, Cambodia, Mozambique, Angola, Somalia, Rwanda. Sierra Leone was another. Somalia and Sierra Leone were very tough assignment, I would say.
Okay.
So presently we are in Congo and South Sudan, Lebanon.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
While there are other players who are also contributing to UN peacekeeping missions, who are sending their forces for the noble purpose, why is India's role in peacekeeping missions significant globally, Professor?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and we feel that India is the most favored nation, or one of the most favored nation. First of all, that global North doesn't want to put their soldiers on ground. They are very good in finance, providing finances, and they say that we'll retain the leadership role. When it comes to fighting in the jungles and in the deserts and all those places, it is a global south
Yeah.
which has been participating. But coming specifically to India, I think there is a global recognition of the high standards of performance with the Indian troops as well as police personnel who are deployed in UN mission. And I recollect the ancient Indian wisdom of Vasudev Kutumbakam, world is one family. That echoes in Indian endeavors, and it is a time tested ethos because our troops, as well as our officers participating in the peacekeeping, they have this ethos of openness, respect for diversity, coexistence, and cooperation. Fact is that we are one-sixth of the world's population, and all our soldiers and the so-called peacekeepers, they live in a multilingual society which is multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and we have lived through millennia. And this actually incorporates the professional excellence in the Indian peacekeepers. Because they come from the society which has a cross-cultural working ethos, and this actually wins the universal admiration. Very often we keep hearing, okay, give me one more Indian staff officer, or send this officer to my team, or send this particular battalion here, because they can work in any type of environment. They are not prejudiced with the religion, caste, race, or color.
Yeah.
So that's the reason,
Thanks
probably.
for bringing out such an interesting thing, because this is something which is not known to many. Our role and why India's role is important globally is something where you have brought out nicely. But this is while this is known to people outside the country and related organizations, some of us do think, who is the nodal directorate for UN military related affairs and peacekeeping mission in India? Because it would be better for people who wants to work with them, who aspires to be part of that. For a larger audience, this is the first question I think which pops out. So, can you throw some light on that, Professor?
Yeah, actually, in India, it is the Ministry of External Affairs, and it has got a Secretary West with the Joint Secretary UN Political, as it is UNP. It is his desk which is the anchor point. But everything starts from the permanent mission of India in New York, because the
Okay.
request starts from there and comes down to the Ministry of External Affairs, which then, if politically it is acceptable, diplomatically it is acceptable, because that is the vetting which happens there, political vetting. Then it is moved towards the three ministries which are, or two ministries which have to send the troops, that is the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Home Affairs, from where the
Okay.
police personnel go. And within Army Headquarters, I come down to Army Headquarters, we have a Staff Duties Directorate. There is a Referee General who heads this directorate, and there is a SD3 section in South Block. They are the one which actually deal with all things, whether it's a battalion going or replacement or officers getting selected or whatever. They are the one who are responsible. But if you ask me at the national level, it is the PMI MEA link which is very, very crucial.
Okay. Okay. So, what is the role of the center you have set up in USI related to this matter, and how unique it is in contributing to these efforts happening within India?
Yeah, you see, two corrections I would know before we move.
Okay.
One is that I was the founding member. Three of us. We set up a Center for UN Peacekeeping, which is now
Okay.
under Ministry of Defense, CUNPK, which actually trains our contingents, and a lot of foreign officers get trained there. USA has got a UN cell, which is a little latest origin. Now, what happened? The Center for UN Peacekeeping uh, trains our contingents, officers, men, even police officers, even friendly foreign countries' forces are run there. And they are actually, basic aim is at tactical level. Some operational training is also provided, but basically tactical level and very much linked to the mission specific. Whereas there was a need felt that we should have a strategic level link with various think tanks world over. Whether it's a UN headquarter or whether it's like we have a effectiveness of peace operation network, Norwegian Peace Institute, then Geneva Security and Policy. So all these various think tanks cannot be directly accessed by army formation or army center. So that is where USI took on this role. Actually, Center for UN Peacekeeping itself was raised under USI, and it moved away from it after about 10 years. So now USI looks at the strategic affairs, links to these various think tanks, and it captures the evolution and lessons from the partner think tanks, and then uh, also holds a lot of seminars with the experts on the USI platform, where the new induction, the officers come in, and a lot of other people. So there is an exchange of ideas which happens, and I mean, in the USI, they are also doing a lot of publications and offering chair of excellence and things like that. Yeah, so that is
Great.
linked.
So I have a question related to your own organization in early days, like Indian Army, how they prepare its soldiers for peacekeeping missions. Like, uh, do you prepare a set of people who can go and be part of UN peacekeeping mission? How that process happens, Professor?
Yeah, so preparation is one is the selection process, which is Army headquarter function. As I said, that it is once the offer has come to Army headquarter, then everybody is involved right up to the top. They select which unit goes. I remember that after 1999, the Kargil War, one of the criteria was that whichever unit has participated in Operation Vijay, they will be the first to go. It is like giving them external exposure. But over a
Yeah.
period of time, obviously, they have now started going as per the seniority of the regiment. So all our regiments have got some seniority. Now, the next part is preparing them. They normally come to Delhi. There is a place where they stay, I think Khanpur camp or whatever. The battalion comes there, moves forward. Then it has to be equipped, clothed, all those things happen. So there's a logistic part which is being taken care of. And then there is a training within the unit. Then there's a
Okay.
pre-induction training. Now, in pre-induction training within the unit, probably language training will go in, depending on where they are going. Pre-induction training, Center for UN Peacekeeping will call officers and some other junior leadership and conduct a contingent officers course, or if observers are going, and that's how the training process starts. And once they are equipped and trained, and when they get inducted you see, we don't require to train them for fighting in an insurgency area because that is the basic training. Our
Yeah.
training is actually to bring them. The weapon has to be down. Show respect to the people. There are no enemies there. That kind of briefing has to be done. And then when they go to the mission area, there is a in mission. So this is how the process. I mean,
Yeah.
it's now fine tuned.
Yeah. So you have specified earlier that our people are the most suitable, one among the most suitable folks for this purpose. And do they face some challenges too? Like, what is the biggest challenge while on deployment?
Yeah, I think challenges are always there. You are
Yeah.
going to a unknown area, unknown country, which is the conflict is raging there. Uh, Things like Eastern Congo, there are number of groups which are fighting each other, and you have to now start, contributing to the peace and tranquility in that region. So I think first challenge which we always feel, and we try to drill that during training, is that peacekeeping mindset, because the our forces are trained for war. You know, they fire weapon to kill people. That's as simple as that. But here in the peacekeeping environment, there are no enemies. There are no hostile groups. They are all equal as far as you are concerned. So, that
Right.
mindset has to be changed. The peacekeepers have to adhere to the three core principles of UN peacekeeping: the consent, impartiality, and use of minimum force, and even under adverse circumstances. Uh, some of the challenges are there is a large area of responsibility, and you are deployed in a very penny packets. Culture and language, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, because
Right.
while some people may be trained, but everybody is not trained.
Yep.
Stress of being away from home. I
Yep.
also feel that at times soldiers and units do feel that there is a lack of support from home, national
Oh,
support, because there's hardly any exposure. You see the papers in Nepal or Bangladesh or Ghana, they splash, their stories and all. But here, there is no coverage. We don't have time and energy. Most of our energy is towards political stories. So that also sometimes probably demoralizes people. Otherwise, we are quite well off, well
I
prepared.
think the technology has helped a bit to get connected to their family at least. Otherwise, it was a difficult, very difficult story in early days. Now, at least we have technologies which can connect different parts of the world. I believe they are allowed to use technology to get connected to their family while they were on mission.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
But then, while talking about technology, there are many technological developments happening at a much, much faster rate. How do Indian peacekeepers operate in UN mission today? How they cope up with the technological developments which is required to operate on the ground? Like, do they get trained with the support of international agencies who are, getting more and more technical advancements? Or do you think like whatever the technical advancement we have within our forces, within our ecosystem, within India, is good enough to get trained and to be operated on those local levels?
Yeah, Professor, I think it's technology can be an enabler as well as disruptor. We all know. As far as India's experiences in technology is concerned, I think we are almost at par with anybody. I mean, we may not have Starlinks to go with, but we have every kind of technology, and the best of it is available. But then there are limitations of using that technology in a different nation. You can use it within the country, but when you go there, there are certain norms which have to be accepted. But we do have now enhanced surveillance capability with the help of drones and UAVs, which UN itself puts together a package. Digital communication allows you to share data in real time.
Yeah.
We have even translation and language applications.
Okay.
Gone are the days when we were stuck. Without an interpreter, we couldn't even move forward. So at
Yeah.
least those things are coming. So technology can be very, very enabler. Uh, but there's a high cost to that, and
Yes.
if restraint is there, um, then we also got to train our peacekeepers in uses of that technology and maintaining that
Mm.
equipment. So those are the challenges, but we have SATCOM communication has become
Yeah.
easier. I think the biggest disruptor due to this technology are the mis and disinformation, which in a foreign land, use of social media and conveying wrong information about the peacekeepers itself can be highly deceptive. We lost two police personnel in Congo just because some rumor went around and that the mob came and they attacked. This is, I think, two
Oh my
years
God.
back, and it's just because of the disinformation. So
Okay.
that is the negative part of it, because these days, everybody uses social media.
Wow. So this is little scary also, to understand the technology as dual role. In some ways it helps, some ways it is bringing more challenges to the operation on ground. So what is the importance of women participation in India's peacekeeping mission? How have they contributed? Like, Can you explain a bit on this? Because we are very curious to know how women are equally contributing to this kind of critical missions.
I think women participation is extremely important and very, very critical in, especially in UN peace operations. Since 2000, this realization came to everybody, and there was a UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security, and that has been spoken about everywhere. In fact, over a period of time, we see even in 2000, 2010, or even after 2020, we have more women uniformed and non-uniformed staff as peacekeepers than they were ever. So India has been contributing. India, you see, right from Congo days, our hospital, General Hospital, which was established, that was the only hospital for the entire international staff. We had women officers as doctors, and we have a group of nursing staff there. And thereafter, wherever the hospitals went, obviously, the women doctors have always been at the forefront. But it is actually Liberia which set the stage, to tell you frankly, because that is where we sent a formed police unit, and they actually changed the entire. UN Secretary General also wanted to experiment that let us
Yeah.
send a unit there in Liberia, and these girls from CRPF and ITBF and all those who went there every year they were changing. They actually changed the mindset of the women in Liberia, and their president, who was herself a woman and she was very well educated, she was President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf on 14th February 2016 when our women police peacekeepers were coming back because that is where the mission stopped. She said that if I had an option, I would definitely like to have another company coming in and
Wow.
helping us. So, I mean, it's amazing because women create better access, they build trust and confidence. They also inspire the future women leaders and peacekeepers
Yes.
in that mission area. Operational performance becomes very good. And it is the women and children who are the segment which is suffering the most. And
Yes.
they don't open up to the men, male soldiers. So women soldiers are the one which, over a period of time, we sent in a female engagement team to Congo for the MONUSCO mission. They are still there. They have done a wonderful job. Then we sent another women platoon to Abai mission.
Okay.
They are still there. They went in January 23 only, and I think they must be now being replaced. So there is a female engagement teams are there. They are able to create that confidence within the community. But the challenge for us in India specifically is that we don't have so many women soldiers in the armed forces. In fact, we have
Okay.
none virtually. We have only the provost marshal CMP a platoon or company has been raised. Whereas in Ghana, they started inducting women soldiers way back in 1958. And as on today, Ghanaian women soldiers' contribution is almost 18% of their
Sure.
force, whereas ours is not even 1%. So that's a major challenge, But we have done very well.
Since you have said our people have contributed, made a great mark in in those overseas missions, and I think it is necessary for people like us to take this kind of success stories to larger people, so that students can get motivated, and more people can come up and then volunteer to this kind of effort. So there are two questions coming here. I will go one by one before we end the session for this today podcast. The first one is, what is India's vision for the future of its contribution to UN peacekeeping efforts? One. And secondly, since you have said like we have very less participation, on this particular specific job within the country, so how can we improve that? Do you suggest anything where certain kind of efforts may likely to boost these numbers, and what ideally we should do to increase this kind of participation?
Yeah, coming to India's vision for the future, um, in September 2015, there was this leaders summit on peacekeeping in New York, and
Okay.
present Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, had very categorically stated the vision that the success of UN peacekeeping ultimately depends not on the weapons that soldiers carry, but on the moral forces that decisions of the UN Security Council commands. So India believes that UN Security Council has to get its acts together and follow the charter for on international peace and security. India has always been committed to promoting responsible international law abiding and inclusive solution to international peace and security. I mean, that is right from Prime Minister Nehru's time, where he said that we cannot shed the responsibilities that go with being a great country. India believes that there have to be multilateral engagements. Our forces have to work under UN command, right? And we believe that there has to be engagement with all parties. That is now, of course, we are always saying that there must be a comprehensive agreement before we send our forces in. So
Right.
that is the kind of vision, and I think, in all fairness, India has supported the UN in all its endeavors as far as peace operations are concerned. Now, how can wider audience understand the role of peacekeeping, and especially the Indian peacekeeping? I think it's a complex thing. We used to have, or we have, model UN, MUNs in most of the colleges and students. In Chitkara University, I used to be part of that, in the sense I
So
used
are
to
you
brief.
talking about model United Nations?
Yeah, model United Nations. In my university, where I was, I worked there for almost 8 9 years. I used to participate with that. I used to brief them or take a talk
Right.
in that. So some education programs, some integration of the curriculum, in which you incorporate UN and UN peacekeeping, because it has to be. Our education programs are very, national centric. Uh, I think they have to be a little given an international flavor, because our students are eventually going to go globally out, and they will be deployed anywhere. We have
Yeah.
Indian multinational companies which are going abroad. So I think that scaling up is required to be done in our schools and universities and all. Then there can be documentaries, films, media coverage, which happens, like this podcast is happening. It should have a wider audience. Youth initiatives can be there. They can go in for internships. They can work with the organization like Center for UN Peacekeeping, or our USI UN cell. But I would recommend that we should encourage reading the first-hand accounts of peacekeepers and biographies. I can suggest a lot of books like Sinai Blunder by Indrajit Rikhiye. He also wrote about the trumpets and tumults about himself. India and UN peacekeeping through prism of time. General Goswami has written Keeping Peace, UN peacekeeping and their effectiveness by General Bardalai. I have written a book on India and UN peace operation in service of humanity and global peace. All these are available on Amazon.
Right.
Operation Kukri by Major General Rajpal Punia. Sierra Leone, the only time UN 233 soldiers fought their way out of a captivity.
Wow.
This has never happened. The Pakistani got stuck in Mogadishu. Americans
Hmm.
got stuck in the Mogadishu. It was
Wow.
Indians without any casualty. There was only one boy who died at the fag end of it because a rocket hit his vehicle, the driver.
Okay.
Otherwise, they fought their way out of captivity. And I mean, that entire thing is captured by Rajpal Punia, who was a major that time, in his book called Operation Kukri. I believe a movie is also being made. Then there is a For the Honors of India by Jan Satish Nambiar. So these are the books which probably people can read. And we can, of course, ask researchers to contribute. Like I said, even
Right.
start of the Korea War itself is a treasure trove for the researcher.
Yeah. I completely understand and I completely agree with you, Professor, because more and more research needs to come, more of outreach needs to be done. And because we have been contributing extensively to this noble mission, and then people should know about it. And we
Absolutely.
should talk more and
Absolutely.
more about it since we are proud for contributing to this UN mission, and I'm sure India will continue to do it in much stronger and better ways as well in future. And thank you, Professor, for joining us today. I really wish to continue this podcast for next 2 hours, but then the problem is due to the time we are cutting short here. But I can assure listeners, this is not going to be the one and only podcast. We will continue to talk to Professor again and to get more and more insights and stories on how the critical missions and things has happened. And stay tuned to our podcast, and in future episodes we'll definitely connect with you, Professor. We really love to hear more and more from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @Takshashila INST or our website takshashila.org.in.